The scripture today comes from John 21. It is in the New American Standard Bible Translation, which is the closest to the Greek, and when you hear it, you will notice it's a bit choppy. And I chose this one on purpose because it's so close to the original. I wanted you to hear the original words, but it will sound choppier than an NIV or a different translation. It's a little choppy, but you'll get it. After these things, Jesus revealed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and he revealed himself in this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, who was called Didymus, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples were together. Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing." And they said to him, "We're coming with you." And they went out and got into the boat, and that night they caught nothing. When the day was now breaking and Jesus stood on the beach, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. So Jesus said to them, "Children, you do not have any fish to eat, do you?" And they answered him, "No." And he said to them, "Cast the net on the right-hand side of the boat, and you'll find the fish." So they cast it, and they were not able to haul it in because of the great quantity of fish. Therefore the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." So when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and he threw himself into the sea. But the other disciples came in the little boat, for they were not far from the land, but about 200 cubits away, dragging the net full of fish. So when they got out on land, they saw a charcoal fire already made, and fish placed on it, and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish which you have caught." So Simon Peter went up and hauled the net to land, full of large fish, 153. And although there were so many, the net was not yet torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples ventured to inquire of him, "Who are you?" knowing that it was the Lord. And Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and the fish likewise. This was now the 3rd time that Jesus revealed himself to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. Now when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said to him, "Tend my lambs." He said to him again a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said to him, "Shepherd my sheep." He said to him the 3rd time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was hurt, because he said to him the 3rd time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." Truly, truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you used to put on your belt and walk wherever you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will put your belt on you and bring you where you would not want to go. Now he said this, indicating by what kind of death he would glorify God. And when he had said this, he said to him, "Follow me." The word of the Lord. Years ago, I was a Girl Scout leader for a summer camp, and every adult had a unit of kids. And this could be a girl unit of 15 kids, or it could be a specialty unit. I worked in the specialty unit marked nature. And for those of you who know me, this is no surprise. The main objective of our unit was to expose kids to the natural world. We needed a basic knowledge, though, of the natural world in order to work in this unit, as we taught lots of lessons on what was around us in camp. We'd often collect natural artifacts to display and to let them touch, like bones, all kinds of bones, even skulls, bird nests, fungi, flowers, bark samples, insects to observe. That was the one aspect of our nature unit. The other focus of the nature unit was on stream studies. We'd bring over 100 girls through a stream with a net and containers and a laminated chart about stream health. And with supervision, they'd collect different organisms and they'd compare them to the chart. And they'd see if the stream was healthy or not. Now, crayfish, crawfish, you call them crawdads here, don't you? So crayfish in the stream, we would catch them, figure out how, tell them how, and then hold them up and hypnotize them. And they just thought that was the cat's meow. In addition to the stream study, we shared safety part of stream walking. We taught the girls how to check their legs for cuts before entering the stream and how to apply waterproof bandages if they found them. We taught them where to look for poisonous snakes and how to avoid these areas, strongly advised avoiding these areas. We also taught them the important lesson on how not to fall on the rocks when you're walking in a stream. Friends, we had children come to camp from inner city D.C. that had never, ever been exposed to this type of nature ever in their lives. They hadn't walked in the woods. They hadn't explored God's creation or spent time in a stream, certainly examining it for health. When they entered the nature unit, they were hesitant and scared. Think of all the sounds in the middle of the woods, even bird sounds, insect sounds, and then in the stream, the water bugs floating and the occasional snake going by. They were quite afraid. These things were foreign to them. They'd had no exposure. But by the end of the first week, we saw a confidence emerge, like a butterfly out of a chrysalis. They developed curiosity instead of fear, and they learned to share this curiosity and confidence with other children who were fearful. By the end of the 2 weeks, we saw children absolutely transformed. Their transformation from timid young girls into secure little leaders was amazing. All it took was patience and guidance and a little bit of encouragement. They needed to be told that they were strong and worthy and capable, and not just to learn the new things, but to share that knowledge with other girls. They needed direction and a purpose, and they found one in the nature unit. In the text today, we expect to encounter the disciples still hiding in the upper room, but the waiting has become tedious, and days pass into weeks since they're told to wait with no other instruction. Peter decides to use distraction as a tool to help himself grieve. Remember that they've not only lost their beloved teacher, but one of their own has betrayed Jesus, actually handed him over to the enemy. And this was really hard to understand and hard to accept. Peter himself denied knowing Jesus 3 times out of fear. The disciples just didn't expect this to happen to their leader. They probably had expected to use Jesus' powers to overthrow the enemy in that garden. But instead, their beloved master is crucified. They might have prepared themselves to be part of a revolution, but understandably would have envisioned the ending to be different. Now Jesus has been crucified and raised, but what are they to do? They have no clear direction. They've been sitting around scared long enough. It's time to do something they know how to do. Going back to what they did before seemed reasonable. So Peter leads the way back to the boat to catch some fish. They were fishermen after all, but they fail. No fish. This is very symbolic. The Gospel of John is full of symbolism. No fish, failure at fishing, failure at their mission is on Friday night to save Jesus. The government was still corrupt, is still corrupt. Jesus appeared in a flash, is gone again. It's almost too much to bear. When the fishers of men revert back to what they know instead of what they learned from their master, they fail. Yet Jesus appears now again to teach them and to remind them. When Jesus shows up, even though they didn't know who he was, they listened to his guidance, to his teachings, to his voice, and the catch is abundant. And then there's Peter. Peter might not have been very good at fishing that day, but he's getting pretty good at listening to the shepherd's voice and obeying. Peter was astounded to see Jesus on the shore. He was shocked, but not too shocked to act. He jumped from the boat when he heard his master call and ran up to Jesus, his teacher. Jesus tells him to go get some of the fish that he had helped them catch. Peter doesn't hesitate. He obeys. Finally, some direction, someone telling him what to do, even if it's just to get a meal. But Jesus has other plans for Peter. Now, when Jesus appears post-resurrection, friends, it's often around a table or a fire, a place where people share food. Have you noticed that? It's always around food, and that is what they did. They shared some fish and some bread, and what a joy it must have been to see Jesus, except for Peter. Peter, while he appeared very happy, he might have been inside a little apprehensive, don't you think? I mean, Jesus knows that Peter denied knowing him 3 times when Jesus was arrested. Maybe Peter was scared and not ready to be a martyr for the kingdom, knowing the criminal Jesus could be dangerous for him and any of the followers. After they finished eating, Jesus asked Peter 3 times in 3 different ways, "Do you love me? Do you love me, Peter?" Why do you think he did that? Why do you think he asked him, "Do you love me?" Any thoughts? Because he denied it 3 times. Any other reason? He was trying to tell them it was okay. Reassurance. Yeah. Do we ever do that to our loved ones? Do you love me? Of course we do. Do you love me? Of course we do. It's something that we do. Reassurance, looking for some kind of sign. And Jesus asked him 3 times. 3 times. Because Jesus was denied 3 times. Yes?
I think he was also
letting Peter make it up. Yes. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. It was a symbolic exchange. Peter is restored. That's exactly right, just like all of you said. Peter's restored by asking him 3 times to take care of the sheep. Peter's importance is being reinforced, and the denial that he used the 3 times is being erased. 3 to 3, matching evenly. But did you notice also that when Jesus is talking to Peter, all of the other disciples who'd been so present in the fishing scene, and they were named, right, seem to disappear. They're not addressed in this dialogue. It's strictly between Jesus and Peter. That private dialogue happens because the movement, without Jesus physically present, needs Peter as the rock Jesus intended him to be. The call to feed my sheep, to love and lead Jesus' followers, is an important moment for that next step in the church that Peter will establish. But baby steps are happening here. Jesus is testing Peter in this dialogue about feeding his sheep and caring for his sheep. He's not just erasing what had happened, he's testing his spiritual readiness. In this testing, Jesus recommissions Peter as a leader of the disciples right then and there, because at the end of his dialogue of talking about Peter's death, the way that he'll die, Jesus once again says, "Follow me." The hard work has not yet begun for these disciples. They must recover some of the habits that they used when Jesus was alive. They must become spiritual leaders without their spiritual leader. What kind of things do Peter and the rest of the group need to remember about the last 3 years of ministry with Jesus in order to move forward to feed the sheep? Well, here's some 3 things. 3 things they need to remember from being with Jesus all that time. They need regular experiences with God, praying, synagogue, festivals, putting God at the center. They need to talk with each other about what they're seeing. What are you seeing? As they witness what people are doing in their lives, what people need in their lives, they must hear with their heart, like their teacher did. And they need to redevelop a ministry with their people that is personal. A ministry that's personal, relationship-oriented, and God-centered. None of this is going to happen in hiding. This is going to be a journey. It's going to take a long time. Yet Jesus told Peter very clearly, "Feed my sheep." What does that look like? Well, there might just be some spiritual disciplines involved. There might just be. The other day, I met with 2 pastors and a lay missionary for breakfast. Our main objective was to share ideas on how to reach young adults and young professionals. Now, at first we shared ideas and thoughts and recent experience we've had with young adults and young professionals in our own context, but then something happened. What started out as a conversation that was a practical, kind of a how-to type conversation, ended up being a deep theological discussion. Each one of us were leaders in a church in some sense, yet it's so easy to get caught up in the mundane, the minutia of ministry, and forget why we were placed in churches. We needed to stop managing the church and its minutia and use our gifts instead to lead the church. Management is an easy thing to fall back on. We all knew how to manage things very well. The bills, the property issues, the monthly reports, the contracts, the meetings, the agendas. That's easy. But the spiritual leadership is what God expects of his pastors and his elders in the church. As teaching elders and ruling elders, we are called by God to be spiritual leaders of the people. But friends, it's really, really hard to be a Christian, to follow Christ, to grow close to God, when there's so much tension in the world right now. It is harder. And we recognize that. The ones who gathered around me with a table with me for a simple breakfast all said that we felt separated from God when we're stressed. We did. Separated from God when we're stressed and when we're managing instead of leading. We have so long been managing our time, managing our churches, that we often forget to fill ourselves with the love of Christ, to grow closer to Christ, to feed our own souls first, because our souls are getting drained and we aren't filling them up with love again. How can you feed the sheep when your own soul is hungry? So how does a person feed their soul? Remember, we talked about what the disciples needed to do to become spiritual leaders. They needed to recover some of the habits they used when Jesus was alive. These are the same habits we need to fill our souls with now. Let's remember what I said a bit ago and add a few more. I didn't warn him. Here we go. Ways to feed our soul. Regularly shared experiences with God in worship, reading the Bible, studying and engaging in discipleship. Engaging in discussion with each other about God's grace, God's love, God's mercy, and God's goodness. Redeveloping ministries in the church that are personal, relational, and God-centered. Sharing God moments with each other. That aha moment, a God thing. You know how we say that? It's a God thing. In the checkout line, talking with someone, whatever it is, sharing those God moments. Having an active prayer life and meditation, and that means praying for yourself as well as for others. And spending time in God's natural world, like the Girl Scouts did at camp. Remember, Jesus didn't say to Peter, "Start my church, Peter, by collecting the offering and managing the property." Or just do what you always do, Peter, fish and people will come to you. Or go convert a lot of people on the beach, Peter. God didn't say that. Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." But not literally. Peter couldn't feed those sheep yet, though. And we can't feed the sheep right now if we're hungry ourselves. And we certainly can't address the hunger in the world if we're separated from God. It's time for rebirth, my friends. It's time for us to grow closer to God and be reborn in his love. Like the children learning how to navigate God's natural world in the stream at Camp Tuckerman, we too need to navigate what it means to be reborn, to be called to leadership in God's kingdom, to learn, and then to teach. The tide is changing, the economy is changing, the world is changing. We need now more than ever to stand on the solid rock of Jesus. And when we feed ourselves and we grow in the Lord, we grow spiritually. Then we're able to be there for others just like Jesus was. After all, he said, "Feed my sheep." And how do we do that? We listen to his second words, "Follow me." Amen.